I'm Raymond Douglas, and welcome to my man cave. Well, rather tool shed, or my special place of reflection. The Inside Out Perspective takes a look at life's challenges and its effects and asks one simple question: what race are you running? So welcome to another episode of the Inside Out Perspective. If you're wanting to know why today my hair's combed, well, it's my punishment because I wore the comfy jersey the other day when it was cold. And through all the banter, you might like the new look. If you do, please hit the subscribe button. Today I want to develop on the theme where we spoke last time about the confusion of the sticky substance in the Quranic version of creation. And today I wanted to have a look at Rabbi Sacks's take on the three stages of creation. And you might be wondering why I am looking at the Jewish tradition. And I honestly believe that the wealth of the tradition and the faith in those Jewish traditions are lost in Christianity. And if we bring them back in to our faith, it just builds on the foundation of what we already know and just enhances our faith so much more. So, check the description box out. Rabbi Sacks's link to his podcast is there. Worth a look. We all know the biblical narrative of Abraham being called out of Ur and being separated by God to be a special people and a special nation. And this is confirmed in Leviticus 19:21, where Yahweh tells us in the law that be holy, for He is our God and He is holy. So what does that actually mean? Do we just simply follow and try and be as good as we can? No, it's derived into our essence. And our very essence is seen back in Genesis 1, verse 26, where we created in God's image. And it's this image that Rabbi Sacks goes into and determines the three stages of creation. And the message is very simple. As God is creative, so we need to be creative. And have a think about it. There's no other creative creature in the universe that has our abilities to think, be creative, and do. We've got the freedom of choice. And that makes us special. And already in that speciality of being created in God's image, we already separated to a degree to follow the true God of creation. So Rabbi Sacks goes and has a look at the Jewish Targum. Now the Jewish Targum is simply the Jewish commentaries. And in the Jewish commentaries, the reference is made to Genesis 2:7, and that is all about how God created man from dust. God formed man out of dust of the ground and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and man became a living creature, and man became the Ruach Mechalah, a speaking spirit. And because we speak, we think, and therefore, in our very nature, we have endless possibilities. Because we think, these possibilities can both be good and equally evil. So stage one is when Yahweh tells us, let there be. In other words, this is the start of creation. This is the creative mind that thought. He's thought of something and he wants to create it. So he says, let there be. And we see a parallel of this in Proverbs 18:21, which says, life and death is in the power of the tongue. And how true is that? We can speak good or bad about people, about things. And that forms actions. And in short, if you have a look at it, the eternity of the creative mind is easy. It's easy to dream and think. It gives us endless possibilities of where we can go. And that brings us to the second stage. And the second stage is when God goes and says, let it be. In other words, It's the action part of the creative Godhead. And this is the hard part. And why is it hard? Because life happens around us. Life just happens. You know, whatever the situation, you could need your car because you're going on a business trip and someone bumps into it and then you don't have your vehicle and. So it's the fallibility and the frailness of our human nature, which is hard to tackle the hurdles which come across us in life. And it's this hardship that breaks us down. It's a destructive form of the creative nature of humanity. Oh, it is what it is. Or another way could be been there, done that. You know, they're not positive phrases. But the Jewish way of tackling the hurdles of life doesn't conform to this normal Western standard of been there, done that type of attitude. Their understanding is somewhat different and totally the other way around, from the inside perspective, let's call it. And this is based on one truth. And it's not for any individual to complete the work, but rather they must not desist from it. In other words, work out your relationship and show God His glory through the work you're doing. Think about this. Lean back in your armchair and think about this. The Jewish nation is the only nation in the world that has outlived every single empire. And why is this? Because the Jews, in essence, aren't there just to complete the task. They're there to honor their God in the work which they're doing. Let me emphasize this. When a human has a good intention and allows God to step in beside him to help him accomplish the intention, it becomes a completed deed. In other words, by allowing God to strengthen you and guide you in your actions, you will accomplish. So the third stage is when God saw it and He says, it is good. It is good. How easy do we see situations in life and go, man, this world is not good. My child has just died. Someone committed suicide. How can all this disease happen? Etc., etc. But man, this is where the Jewish nation has a step up on us, because they see everything in the light of Yahweh's blessing. Everything is a blessing from God, and they live out their life within that blessing. Think about it. Look at any example you can think of a Jewish friend or a Jewish nation or anything in history, and see how the Jewish nation lived out that situation as a blessing from their God and how they rise up above it. It is absolutely amazing, and it's something we need to take home. Live life in the blessing which God has given. You see, in this, the Jewish understanding is that God wants everyone to live out His blessing and be part of the world, fighting its battles, tasting the joy, and celebrating in the splendor of everything which we receive. Let me take this a step further, and I want to relate this to the prison ministry I've been involved in. When you go into prison and you talk to a prisoner, and you get to know them and you interact with them, man, you realize that their background and their form of upbringing is based on a dysfunctional family, on tragedy, on broken homes, on lack of self-respect, and therefore they don't respect the world itself. And why is this? Simply because they've never been told they are good. And really, if you think about it, how hard is it for someone just to acknowledge the goodness in another person, whether it is your wife, your children, your neighbor, someone at church, a working colleague? Even your worst enemy, acknowledge their good, because in acknowledging their good births their creative desire. And that's the key. Birthing a person's creative desire so they can be good. And if God sees the goodness in us, how can we not see the goodness in other people? So in short, let me just quickly summarize the 3 points. First of all, we've got the creative mind, the imagination, the dreaming. Secondly, we bring that into action through pure willpower and desire to honor God in the work we're doing, with the understanding that it's not the intention, but it's the doing of the work in glorifying that makes it good. And then secondly, acknowledging the goodness of not only your own work, but those around you, which then in turn births the creative power of those around you and more in you. And if you really think about it in all honesty, and I don't care which God you serve, if the true God of creation did it for you, why can't you do it for the fellow people in your area of influence? And better still, acting out the love of Christ in relationship with the people around you will even be a cherry on the cake. So I'll leave you with this last thought. What race are you running?